I'm Daniel Way, 8th grade science teacher at Robinson Middle School, here to take you, my fellow Kingsport City Schools teachers, through using modules to develop a high-quality lesson. Our goal in this video is to understand the instructional functions of the Canvas Learning Management System through a brief tour, to approach using modules to facilitate high-quality lesson design, and for all of us to commit to an instruction-first philosophy. A learning management system is a tool for teachers to manage student learning. It's right there in the name. But more than that, it is a tool to enhance your art of teaching. Technology does not fix a problem, but instead should enhance the solutions which are shared with traditional lesson design and traditional in-classroom teaching. A good learning management system is not just a place to put a list of links or to just drop a flow of content, but instead it adds to both blended and virtual classroom lesson organization. At Kingsport City Schools, our tool of choice for this is Canvas, and I hope that we can work through this tour together to build your competency in using modules to make you more comfortable with applying high-quality lesson design to a blended or virtual format. Our first step is to log into Canvas. You can find this under the Staff tab on the Kingsport City Schools webpage. And you're going to log in with your KCS account. Once you've logged in, you'll be taken to the dashboard where you can see your published and unpublished courses, but you cannot see archived courses that have already concluded. Today we're going to be focusing on building a lesson using modules. So we're going to go to Courses. You should have a much shorter list. And scroll down to All Courses. And we're just going to make ourselves a safe little place to practice where we do not accidentally send anything out to students or parents. When you create courses, always leave them private and copyrighted. This will keep them from being searchable and should keep us within our privacy guidelines. Once you create the course, you're going to land here, and the first page is going to be Create a New Module. And that's just what we're going to do. Now, you can also get to modules by clicking the module link here. You can also get to individual pieces of content such as assignments, discussions, quizzes, or pages on the left side, but we can do all of that through modules. So let's start there. If I am in the modules page, I can create a new module by clicking the Create Module button. Anytime you see the plus sign, just like you used it to create a class, this is going to create a module. And I'm going to name it 5E Lesson Plan. Now, I am a science teacher, and I like using 5E lesson plans, among others. And you can use any type of lesson plan you want. But I wanted to show you that I have a plan for my lesson before I come into Canvas. That's part of our instruction first philosophy. Now that we've made the module, it is just this gray bar, and I want to show you some things that we can put in it. Using this plus sign, we can add content to our module, and the first thing that I'm going to add is just a text header that is going to allow me to keep my lesson organized and keep my students clued in on what's happening. Now, this is just a text header. It just tells my students this is the engage portion of the lesson. So let's add some content. Now, if all you want to do is show students content and you don't need to collect anything and you don't need a score, then Pages is your best option. And we're going to make this lesson about states of matter, and we're going to try and engage these students with Oobleck. Since this is a piece of content, I want to organize it, indent it to my header, so I'm going to indent it one level. You can also change the level of indentation with the three-dot menu on the right of any piece of content. You can also edit it, duplicate it, remove it, or move it up and down, although you can also do that by just dragging the 8 dots on this side. I'm going to click into this page, and we are going to see that there's nothing here. So clicking the Edit button is going to allow us to add content to this page. And I want to use one of our integrated content tools, which is YouTube. I think we're all familiar with YouTube. And I remember a video I want to use to get my students' attention for this portion of the lesson. Now, you will see relevant YouTube videos, and these have already been through the parent filter, but you still need to watch them yourself. And you can either click embed to get a small embed, or you can pick your size here, and I prefer large. So I'm going to embed a large YouTube video, and you can see that that is now embedded in this content. Now, it's very important after you edit something to always hit save. This will not be saved automatically. And this is basically what that will look like to the students. I'm going to click back to modules and we're going to continue our lesson design. Now, later, I'll show you how we can make sure the students have started to watch that video, but we might also want to check in with them using a short assessment. And to do that, we're going to use a short quiz. I'm also going to indent this 2 levels, which is just a visual cue to my students that this quiz goes with the content above it. Now, I don't want to dive into using the quiz tools now, but know that you have a lot of options for question types, and you have a lot of options for getting data from your students using the quiz tool. I'm going to continue to add content to this by adding another text header, and this is going to be my explore portion of the lesson, and I'm not going to indent that because I want to show my students that that's the next portion of the lesson. And we are going to add to this an assignment, and an assignment is different from a page because an assignment will collect or score some student artifact. Now you can see there's nothing here, but unlike the pages, this will show that the assignment has a due date, when it was available, and when it will stop being available for students. The due date and the until date are different. If you want to take late work, you can leave this until date blank. You can also add a rubric to that particular assignment. I'm going to edit this, and I want to give them a couple of resources. The first thing I want to do is I want to give them access to explorelearning.com, which is something that we use in middle grade science. And I'll use this link button to do that. And here I'll just type the link to explorelearning.com, and that'll just give them a shorter way to get to it. And you can see that that link is there available to them. Now I can dress it up. Use Explore Learning to complete the guided inquiry sheet below. Oh, I got a typo. It happens to the best of us. Now, you may be asking yourself, what guided inquiry sheet? And you might also be asking yourself, isn't that just a fancy word for worksheet? So we're going to use more external tools here, and I'm going to find Google Apps, because that is where I've put this for the students to do. And I am looking for my Phases of Water lesson for the students to dive deeper into this content. And now I can embed this, or I can put a link. If I embed it, it's going to look just like this here. Students will still have to sign in, just like it was open in a separate tab, but it will make them their own copy of this document. Now, if you just want them to have a link and open in a new tab, you can also add Google Drive folders the old-fashioned way, using drive.google.com and sharing a link. And I will find that same assignment in my Google Drive. And I'll get a shareable link for this assignment. Now, you could also insert link the other way, and it's going to work about the same way. But if you wanted another option where this says edit, you could change that to copy. And when I hit enter, you will see that that's going to take my students to a place where it requires them to make their own copy of this document, and they can't type each other cute messages back and forth. So I am going to say that this is the guided inquiry sheet, and I'm going to add a link. But instead of using this, I'm going to hit Control and K while I have that highlighted, and you'll see that gives me a few more options. This title option will not be apparent to the students, but what you can do is make that open in a new window so they have it open separately from their other resources. Now, there's more options to the assignment, including that you can make it be worth a certain amount of points. You can sort it into certain groups. You can display the grade as points, letters, or a GPA scale. You can make it be ignored in the final grade, and you can require a submission. I'm going to require an online submission, and I'm going to require a file upload, and this will allow them to upload, including Google Docs. If you want this to be a group assignment, you can click this, and you can either split the students into groups, or you can assign them to groups you've already set up. Now, if you split the students into groups, This is not just splitting one class into 7 groups. It's splitting all your students into 7 groups. So be conscious of that. You can require them to be in the same class, but you don't have to. That's one of the benefits of using a learning management system, is that we can have broader collaboration between our class periods. You can also create the groups manually, but you will have to have that group set having a name. So we could just call this table groups and say that we are going to allow the students to go to the table groups. I'm going to turn that off to save myself a little time. If you have your groups pre-made or your classes pre-made, you can also, instead of assigning this to everyone, assign it to a particular course or assign it to particular groups. Maybe you have some groups that have special needs given by an IEP and you want to do it there. You can choose a due date, an available from date, and an available till date. Remember that these are separate. Remember that these are separate. Okay? And like with everything, I need to make sure that I save. Now I have a piece of content. Does it look great? Nope, but I'm just showing you the ropes. Our next step is going to be creating another heading, because the next step of a 5E lesson is explain. I am sticking to my lesson plan and letting Canvas help me teach a lesson, not letting the lesson help me use Canvas. And I'm going to add another page to this because I just want to show the students a Nearpod, and I'm going to indent that to keep us organized. Now, when I click the Nearpod, again, I have a page, and there's nothing in it again, so I'm going to edit that. And I can access Nearpod here, or I can go to the Nearpod website. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for the States of Matter Nearpod, and you should never do this sight unseen, and you should definitely modify the Nearpod to your classes, but you can either put a live lesson if you're doing this blended, or you can put a student paced lesson if you'd like to do that. In either case, you can launch the new lesson and you can get an embed code. And I like to embed it large because that just lets it fit to the student's screen. And I'm going to copy that embed code. Going back to my modules in my Nearpod, do you see here where it says HTML editor? If you're going to embed something, it's best to click that and then embed the code in the HTML editor. That's going to place the Nearpod there, and if I want to put anything before it or after it, I can still do that. But now we have access to that Nearpod for our students. This will give them a login page and then allow them to progress through that Nearpod. If I use Teacher Pace, they would have to wait on me at this point, and sometimes that's what you need to do. And just like everything else, I'm going to save. Going back to working on our module, we're going to add our next portion. So another header to keep my students and myself organized is going to be the elaborate portion. And I'm not going to indent that because that's my header again. And I want students to elaborate by participating in a classroom discussion. And that's going to be about the state of matter of Oobleck. And I am going to indent this because it falls underneath that category and add the item. And this is added a discussion board. Now, this discussion board will show all the students' posts and replies and allow you to sort by unread or to move through the pages. But first, we need to create a little something for them to discuss. Now, don't just put a question on the discussion board. The students will just answer it, they will see each other's answers, and there won't be a lot of thinking happening. Ask yourself, how is this discussion enabling students to think and dialogue with each other? And I want to do that in a simple way by having them use a claim evidence-free reasoning framework. Write a claim about which state of matter is Oobleck. Provide evidence for a classmate's claim. Now they have to read other claims and attach it to evidence. It's not heavy lifting, but it does get them to think a little bit. Now, if you're in an ELA classroom, maybe you want to use a Socratic seminar. If you're in a math classroom, maybe you want to do a number talk or have them solve an equation one step at a time in dialogue with each other. Now that we have this guidance, we need to make our options fit. So we need to allow them to reply to each other. That's allow threaded replies. I am going to grade this discussion. I can make this a group discussion if I wanted them to only talk at their table groups or maybe in an ability group based on our benchmark data. I can allow them to like it, and if it sorts by likes, that's going to put the favorites at the top. Now, one important option is saying users must post before seeing replies. And this is going to be your friend. That's going to stop them from copying each other's answers, and that's going to keep them doing their own thinking. Again, you can use groups, and you have those same options you did for an assignment, and you have the same options for who you assign it to, and for those due dates. And again, I'm going to save. The last portion of a 5E lesson plan is assessment. And I'm going to add a text header to keep my students there. So the 5th E is evaluation. I'm not going to indent that, and I am going to just go with the old classic standby of adding a quiz, and that's my States of the Matter quiz. Again, we're not going to get into how to build the quiz, but I just want to show you that there's a flow here. So right now you're probably asking yourself, Daniel, I thought you said that a learning management system wasn't just a list of content. And that's why we built this out in modules, because if you'll go to these 3 dots at the module section, you're going to be able to click and edit and work with requirements. And I am going to add my first requirement is that they have to at least look at the video. I want them to get a certain score on the Oobleck quiz. I want them to make a submission for the Explore Learning, which means they're going to turn in a document. I want them to look at the Nearpod. I want them to contribute to the discussion, which this isn't going to make sure they reply, but it is going to make sure that they contributed. And then this last quiz, I don't want to be a roadblock for them, but I am going to make sure that they have submitted the assignment. Now, students must complete all of these assignments, okay, and they must complete them in order. So the students are going to view the video. I'm going to make sure that they understood it with a quiz, and I'll give them unlimited attempts so they can meet our score. Let's say that it's 6 out of 10 is what we're aiming for. Not a very high bar. Maybe let's shoot higher. Before they can move on to the rest of this lesson. So we're going to make sure they have some base vocabulary. We're going to let them explore. We're going to add an explanation. We're going to have a discussion to elaborate, and then we're going to assess what they've learned, all in order. Now, we can do a little bit better with this evaluation piece, I think. I think we can do better than just giving them a quiz. So we're going to add another module, and I'm going to make this an evaluate module. And I'm going to add a prerequisite. Now what that does is set the requirement that they finish a previous module before moving on. Okay? So now they have to finish this before they go here. I'm going to move this States of Matter quiz down here to the evaluate, and I'm going to remove this old evaluate header. Now I want to have some more options for my students. Maybe I want to assess them by having them submit an assignment. And I'm not going to indent that. Maybe I want to assess them by having them participate in a Socratic seminar using the discussion board. And I'm not going to indent that either. And I'm going to remove the indent on this one. Now I have 3 ways that the students can assess, and let's say that I don't want to do all of that. I'm going to go here and edit it and look at my requirements again. And I'm going to have the State of Matter quiz requirement. I am going to have the assessment assignment requirement to be submitted. And the discussion, it's going to require them to contribute to the page and know that it's graded. Now, if I want to give the students the choice between these 3, I put students must complete one of these requirements. And now they have the option for how they're going to demonstrate their learning to you, either through a quiz, a project, or a discussion. And I'm going to update that module. So now we have a 5E lesson plan with the student's choice of assessment, and we really have used our learning management system to design a lesson that drives the student towards increased understanding in the states of matter. Now remember, you can use any lesson format. All you have to do is ask yourself, is this made better by Canvas? Does Canvas allow me to execute this more effectively? And is this going to increase student access? This would not be a standalone lesson. I'll be circulating while students are working through the guided inquiry. I might deliver the Nearpod as a traditional lecture, and we may have a classroom discussion to pair with our digital discussion. Of course, also the students are going to get feedback on grading. So this could be a blended lesson just as much as it could be a virtual lesson and would probably be enhanced by being blended. Now I want to show you a few more things about Canvas, including how you should double check your work. If I click on Settings, you're going to find one of the most important buttons hidden away over here, and that's Student View. When I click that, that's going to let me see the student's view of the course, and I can see that that module is not available. So this is not ready and accessible for the students. Now I'm glad that I've double checked myself. So I'm going to leave Student View. I'm going to go back to my modules, and I'm going to see that I haven't published it. You see these little crossed out circles? Now I can publish this content individually, or I can publish the entire module and have it ready to go. Now let's go look at our student settings and see if maybe things look a little better in the student view now. Yes, now the student can see this, but you can see that they have to start here and they're locked out of the next ones, and they can see their requirements for each step of the lesson. The second module for evaluation hasn't appeared because they have to finish this prerequisite module first. I have a good, strong flow for my lesson because I've understood how to use modules for lesson design. Remember, if you get lost or you don't know how to accomplish something, you have access to the help icon, and you also have access to your T2L team, your Innovative Learning Coordinator, and your Instructional Design Specialist, as well as your peers in the classroom. Now I've built this in a sandbox course. If I want to carry this over to another course, I can export course content from this. And if I hit export the course, it's going to export it somewhere else. But if I want to load this content onto another class, I'm going to go to Settings in the other class and hit Import Course Content. I'm going to hit Copy a Canvas course, but don't worry, it is not going to copy the whole course. I'm instead going to copy content from one of my other courses, and I'm going to hit Select Specific Content and Import. Once I've done that, I can hit Select Content, and it's going to let me choose what I want to import from that class. While Commons is a good place to store content, this only takes about 30 seconds to upload and 30 seconds to download, whereas Commons can sometimes take 45 minutes to an hour for both upload and download. Now I want to be a little tidier, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to conclude this course so that it can be archived since it's just been for our training purposes, and this is a good way to keep your dashboard clean. If I wanted to delete the course permanently, I could go to Courses, hit All Courses, and find the courses I wanted to delete. Go to Settings again and hit Delete this course. And I'm going to let it go off into the void because we're all done learning from it for today. Thank you for your time, and remember, this is the same type of teaching that you've always done. You just have a new digital way to do it.